Welcome everyone to another episode of Vinny Makes the Hall of Fame Case for ... And I'm really excited because I actually made a request. I requested something from Vinny, somebody that he had brought up sometime before in a previous one-on-one interview with Bill Carroll. Check that out on, I'm calling this the Bucknerverse. I have to do this a little bit here, the Bucknerverse. Where Bill is this great guy. I think if Bill doesn't know the answer, it's not worth asking the question. And I think you're going to be doing something with Bill soon, which we'll promote a little bit after. But either way, we're going to promote what you're going to be doing shortly. And Bill's just a phenomenal guy, and so is Vinny. And Vinny, who did I request, and who did you tell me about months ago that made me want to request it?
Well, I decided to put in a request for the United States 26th president. That's right, Theodore Roosevelt, TR, or some even call Robin Williams, but that's another topic. But yeah, Theodore Roosevelt, one of the nation's greatest leaders. Obviously, you know his story. You know, grew up in New York.
Well, not this story that you're going to tell.
Well, I'm just talking about basic rundown. You know, he was our vice president, got elevated after Schogels assassinated McKinley, and he went on to have an illustrious career as a U.S. president and one of our most transformative leaders of the 20th century as a whole. But why am I talking about a very influential and I would say iconic, world-renowned politician in something in regards to a Hall of Fame case? Like, on the one hand, you say, Vinny, this is sports. What are you bringing him in? Aha. Sounds like someone doesn't know about the history of Theodore Roosevelt. You see, this man was, Theodore Roosevelt, if it was not for him, NFL, college football, probably might not even existed. He probably would have gone the way of the dinosaurs.
All right, so tell everybody why that is, because like you were the first, you mentioned that to me, and then Bill, when I talked to him, we were talking about, I can't remember if that was online or whether we were just, because we talked for an hour off afterwards. And Theodore Roosevelt had a big impact on the game of really college football, but football in general, because when we're looking in the early 1900s, baseball was king. And the number 2 sport, which people may not understand, as big as college football is right now, college football well exceeded any kind of version of pro football. It
was way more popular back then. In fact, many times they viewed, I think it was Amos that said this, he viewed any kind of professional football as inferior to the college game. That's not saying the professional game wasn't good.
Amos Alonzo Stagg?
Yes, Amos Alonzo Stagg. He looked down at, you know, professional football and said, "Oh, it's not as tough or as gritty as our game." Like he was very pro amateur football and very anti-professional. I think that's a big reason as to why, you know, there was a divide back then. There's still a bit of a divide now, even though the games are much more coming together with the play styles. You know, a lot of that early philosophy of, you know, college is different from pro. It stems back way back when.
So the way I understand it, because I was doing some research when, you know, about this, and I've been looking at this for a while, actually really since we talked about that. The college game, I mean, football, we know, you and I know it. I mean, everyone watching this knows professional football as a brutal physical game. It was a lot worse. And I know that a lot of the people watching this or listening to this are thinking, well, yeah, of course it was. I mean, 20 years ago, it was. No, we're talking 100 years ago. And Vinny, if you could, describe the game before Theodore Roosevelt sort of intervened.
It was a bloodbath, Kirk. It was a legit, violent, desecrational, aggressive, kill, death, destruction, absolute
And people did
carnage
die.
of a game.
So Vinny's not talking hyperbole. There were deaths at least in 2 digits annually.
There were
College game.
18 deaths, and in terms of injuries, there was like 150 something injuries, and these weren't like small little, broken finger or ACL. No, these were very serious injuries, like broken clavicles, neck, neck problems, or just very, very serious leg issues and arm issues. Like these were like, people were saying back then, this is too serious. This is killing students. We need to stop this. They were comparing this.
Rugby, no?
No, they were comparing this to like, they were comparing the brutality to that of ancient Rome.
No. I understand that, but I mean, like when you look at the way they were playing then, I mean, there were formations that you can't even fathom today.
No, like
there was no forward pass. There was no.
No. It was very run heavy. It was very block heavy. There was no passing. I mean, yeah.
Well, there was run heavy. I mean, there was only run only.
Well, it was run heavy. It was very aggressive. All full, like going all at once, full throttle, full speed ahead. That's all it was about. All running. Which I think some people online would like that because they don't shut up about wanting to have.
Yeah, but no. But also, we're talking no real rules here and how you take someone down.
There wasn't any rules. It was there was coaches, there was schemes, but most of it was trying to run past the blockers, go into the end zone. But again, like when we talk about the trenches themselves, the trenches, when you block it was like spinal cords were severed, skulls were crushed, your ribs would pierce so hard it would go right through their lungs, their hearts, their stomachs. It was as violent as you can imagine, and padding was very minimal at that time.
Or even at all.
Yeah, like
like
a mouth guard, maybe. I don't know.
When we're looking at the first real big college sports, it was football. As colleges sort of grew, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe sort of the threshold was when a lot of major schools started dropping football completely. And
I think, yeah.
And if I understand correctly, because I believe Theodore's son played football, was it at Harvard?
Yeah, he was part of the Harvard freshman team.
Okay.
And like Teddy himself growing up, he couldn't really play those sports because he was a little frail. And he had the reason why he always has the glass on because he's nearsighted. He couldn't play just physically.
Theodore was a tough individual. I mean,
don't let his nearsighted. He held that bully pulpit strong, but he spoke softly, but he carried that big stick with him 24/7. Don't take it that way. Like he was always a very tough guy. He was very, very tough in terms of litigation as well as regulating. Like he led the Rough Riders in the Spanish American War. The dude knows how to lead people.
Right.
He ain't no snowflake. He ain't no flower. He's tough.
And I think also too, like again, we're looking at Harvard in 1905, I believe was the year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was 1905. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and it's kind of funny because even people like I say younger viewers, but I mean like realistically, you're much younger than me. But in your lifetime and in my lifetime, Harvard football is kind of meaningless. But
unless you count Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh, Ryan Fitzpatrick, whatever. Okay. Okay, fair enough. But you know what I mean. I mean, like in terms of, all right, hey, let's all gather around. We got to watch Harvard on TV. Oh wait, they're not on TV. Like that Harvard in the Ivy League. That was the premier football league, was it not?
Yeah, it was them, Yale, and Princeton. Those were the big three powerhouses at the time.
Right. But there were other schools. I'm trying to remember which ones apparently dropped it. But either way,
I think Duke dropped it. I think Duke dropped it. Understanding.
All right, but yeah, so them and a couple others. So it was Theodore Roosevelt, and please jump in here. Tell me if I'm incorrect. He was the one who sort of like pushed, like, hey, if we're going to save this sport, we've got to come up with some kind of set of rules. No.
Yes, he was the one that said, and because his son was playing, I mean, it'd be one thing if his son wasn't playing, but as someone whose kid was there, he said, I mean, his son would often get hit on by the opposing players unnecessarily. Like they would intentionally break his nose and hit him in the face oftentimes.
Right.
Like he said, we got to change this stuff. This is getting out of hand.
Yeah, and I think when I was talking to Bill about that too, and he sort of mentioned like in a sort of different way. I mean, it had it not been sort of like for an elite thing, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah,
but which is totally relevant,
but that happens. It happens in life. That just happens. I mean,
sure. But I think it is something, an interesting perspective to bring in. I just love talking to that guy. But
yeah, Bill's great. Bill's great, guys. If you haven't already, watch him on Zenny 62 Media. He's amazing. He's a blast. He's, I would argue, smarter than me in many topics. Like, I'll be frank in saying this. I'll be frank.
He's smarter than I am.
Yeah,
he's 11 Bravo on Twitter.
Yeah, 11. He's brilliant.
11 phonetically spelled. 11 Bravo on Twitter, and yeah, just I legitimately think if he doesn't know the answer, why are you asking the question? That's how I feel.
He knows. Yeah, Bill knows. Bill knows this shit. Like, I'm gonna be frank here. I'm not just kissing your ass, Bill. Like, legit, dude, you know your shit. Like, you know your stuff.
I'm gonna bring this up if we ever all meet, because he's in Chicago. Evan's in Chicago. Evan Nolan, who does the Hall of Fame show with me weekly, who is a former Jeopardy contestant. I want to see something between those two.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah, you and I can be the co-hosts on that one. But anyway, going with that, I mean, like, yes, I mean, there is some kind of elitism with that, but regardless of that, it did sort of save a sport there, because this was a time where you had to save it in college, because the NFL hadn't existed yet. There wasn't even anything close to the formation of the National Football League, which you can also check out another thing why Vinny makes the Hall of Fame case for Ralph Hay, I think, in the
he was one of my earliest guys. Like,
football. So this was a very important thing to just humanize a game that became very American. Because had this not happened, and this is just my theory, is it possible that the United States now would be a rugby powerhouse?
I think it's definitely possible, because at that time, Columbia, Northwestern, Duke, and amongst of others, they were banning football, and they were using rugby instead.
Yeah.
Because rugby, compared to football, was far less life-threatening. In fact, the 1905 season alone had 19 player deaths. That's not a small number. Like, now when you think of football, you have the head injuries and everything with the concussions and CT, but like,
which we're not downplaying. We're not downplaying.
We're not downplaying that at all.
Like, but it's totally different. And obviously, people in North America, United States, Canada, like, there's a lot of us who would gravitate towards a more physical game. So like that could sort of happen. And the way the United States grown, I could have conceivably see how we could have seen like rugby world powers here, like in the US. But here in the US, I'm a Canadian. But anyway, what were some of the changes?
You're in Winnipeg right now, Kirk.
I am. Yes, I am. And you're going to visit, man. I'm planning the Vinny Sports Tour.
That'd be pretty fun. I've never been to Canada, actually.
Well, I'm sort of thinking it'd have to be in the fall. We're going to do NHL, AHL, CFL.
Down with that.
Yeah. Just don't annoy my wife, or she'll throw you out. We're living on.
I want to annoy Pauline. I might annoy Jasper, but who knows?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Jasper will love you. Jasper is my corgi, for those wondering who the hell he's talking about. Like, no, I don't have a kid. So like some of the changes that he created. I mean, he didn't create the forward pass, but his move, the things that he did allowed for it to grow. No?
Oh yeah, I mean, Drunk History did a whole thing on him about it. Yeah, when Drunk History does a topic on you, then you're probably pretty important, and what you do is probably pretty important. Like,
I'm pissed off I never came up with that first.
Don't worry. Hey, I'm here speaking to you about him, and yeah, obviously the reforms, it didn't happen immediately. That came on gradually. Like, and then when it went down, it went to like 11, and then after 1909, they decided to have more, like, has ease restrictions on forward pass, and the
but
game
just,
opened up a little bit more on the
but
modern
I mean,
game.
just sort of like what you could do physically. I mean, they sort of altered. I mean, it's kind of reminds me of the early days of MMA, because for those who follow mixed martial arts, you look at the, like, I love UFC. It's one of my favorite things to watch. Having said that, what you see now bears zero resemblance to what I used to watch back when Vinny was even a glimmer in his dad's eye, like in UFC 1 or 2, when they didn't even know what the rules were yet. You're just like, okay, well, don't go after someone's eyes or their balls. That was pretty much it. I'm I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not by much.
Yeah, like but in short, basically, like, Theodore Roosevelt, he's a guy that, because of his impact on the game, I would argue he should be both in the College Football Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Would you say, I'm just thinking personally, I would think college for sure.
Oh yeah,
Well,
college, absolutely.
I mean, pro, I mean, like, although the leap is very easy to make, he that didn't exist then.
That,
You
well,
know what I mean?
actually did exist then.
Well, okay, but nobody cared.
I care.
Okay, I know you care, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know.
I mean, like, if let's say the College Football Hall of Fame honors what Theodore did and the Pro one doesn't, are you okay with that? Because you're
I'm okay with that. I'm
okay.
mostly
All right,
okay with it.
that wasn't the
I'm mostly okay with it. I just want at
okay.
least college. And I'm someone that's kind of like rigid when it comes to that
Wow.
kind of a thinking. But in this situation, yeah, I'll be honest here. What he did mostly affected the college game. I mean, I'd be down
Okay.
for it. Like, one of my friends, Alex, he covers the Steelers. I forget the name of the website. It's off the tip of my tongue. But he made a case actually for why Canton should have Walter Camp, even though his contributions were just for college. But with that, he may have an idea of saying, yeah, it may have been for college. However, because it literally was the game itself, he'd be down for it. It's similar states with Roosevelt, but I would say even then, when college doesn't even have him, I'd focus on college first when it comes to
Interesting. Okay,
Roosevelt.
I thought that was going to go a different way, but that's interesting. All right, well, then this was one of my favorites, obviously, because
Yeah, me too.
I picked it. So I
Yeah,
don't.
well, no, I legit like it because one of my friend Steve, he like I know he's pretty smart too. He mentioned, he would like Roosevelt was one of those top guys, and you know, I was there on him, but like after doing more research, I said, yeah, this guy absolutely should be at least in the College Hall of Fame. And again, not with the plaque, the full treatment, because when you're that significant as someone who literally is the reason why the sport's around, I mean,
It's pretty big.
yeah,
It's pretty
yeah,
big.
I understand. You're gonna get those people that say, like, when I mentioned, Odie Thompson, I got some people that said, "Oh no, you shouldn't do it. He was a privileged white guy in the 1800s." It was the time,
Did you?
guys.
Did you get some pushback on that?
Oh, I got one person that was saying to me how, like,
I must have
Thompson's
missed that. Was
bad
that on
because,
Twitter?
yeah, one guy, like, he
Okay.
was saying how, like, oh, he's a privileged white guy. And I said to him, it was the 1890s. Duh. Like,
Well, I mean,
I don't care
both things
personally.
can be true.
Yeah, I don't care. Like,
Yeah,
be
yeah.
frank.
No, I hear what you're saying. I mean, like, it's it's something that we have to sort of like look at other sides to it, but some people can
Yeah,
do things.
just leave it.
Like
Like,
Theodore
what?
Roosevelt obviously was a privileged white guy, but he had power and he used that power to create something that a lot of us
Yeah,
love.
like the thing
Uh,
too is, like, I hate saying it too because, like, yeah, he was a privileged white guy for both of them, but they did a lot of significant things.
well, sometimes they do. And some
Yeah.
more often than not, they don't.
Yeah.
This is the part where I plug a bunch of shit. Vinny and I are part of something really, really special. In November, we're going to be announcing the first class of the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. Well, we're not necessarily announcing it, you're all voting on it. So check that out, www.nottenhalloffame.com/USA. And Vinny, myself, Richmond Webb, former Miami Dolphin, 2 former Olympic bronze medalists. So it's not just Vinny and I and a bunch of other people like us who hide behind a keyboard, and we're not hiding behind a keyboard because here we are. But some people who've like been in the trenches, so to speak, helped us come up with a lot of people that we nominated for the U.S. Hall. Because believe it or not, nobody came up with it. We had to do it.
Yeah.
And we're really proud of that. You can vote on that every day, once a day. So please do so. So check that out. In the Bucknerverse, because I'm calling it the Bucknerverse. I have to do this little hand gesture. I don't know why. Well, why not? Because I can. There's a bunch of other things that we do. Evan Nolan and I do the weekly Hall of Fame show where we look at Hall of Fame related news. Sometimes there isn't any. We just make shit up. Sometimes I'm even sober for it. We also do have, how the hell did this go #1? We just recorded, oh, here's a song that Vinny would never even heard of. The Escape Club, Wild Wild West. Ever hear of that?
I know about the song that Will Smith sang in that
Well,
movie.
it's not that.
I know about that movie because it was released the day I was born.
Okay, well, this is something 10 years before that and has nothing to do with Will Smith. So we look at how that weird song that Vinny's never heard of went #1 in 1988. I think it sucks, but that's just my personal opinion. Chris Bournet and I, we're going to be we do another show where we look at how the hell, like, this crap was on national television. I've selected for the next show, The Powers of Matthew Starr. Another thing Vinny's never heard of.
Who's Matthew Starr? It sounds like, Matthew Starr kind of sounds like a guy who was like, that's like a stage name for someone.
Well, he had powers.
Oh, so it was like Steve Austin, the $1 Million Man.
I haven't watched it yet. I just picked it. I just know it was a really bad show from the 80s.
Like, I think another bad show, I think it was like Manimal. Like
that almost was what I was going to pick. It was around the same year. Something that Vinny would know about, because I'm recording this tonight. It's the Classic Sports Review. Glenn Pulowski, the greatest triathlete ever to come out of Buffalo, who defended his title in Antarctica. Well, tonight we're looking at The Fumble Game by Ernest Biner.
Yes, I know this one, obviously.
Yes, this one, even though this again predates Vinny, I know Vinny knows his stuff. So we're going to be looking at that, and I've got a special guest for that, Thomas Hall from Mile Ohio Huddle. You know him too.
Oh, awesome! Tom is fantastic. Biggest Tom Nalen fan you can find.
Right. Well, Tom isn't it. Tom Nalen's not in this game, but Tom Hall is going to be a special guest for that. So I'm pretty excited about looking at this. It's kind of funny. I wanted to look at a Cleveland Browns game for whatever reason. I just was deep diving in Cleveland Browns history, but I don't have a Cleveland Browns stand to sort of help me out with this. But I don't know any.
Well, he knows something in regards to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, that was one of the Broncos' biggest rivals in the late 80s.
Sure, but like I've got someone who knows the Denver side very well, so it may not be the
At least you got one side of it.
Yeah, well, one side fits all. Well, that's not how it goes.
One size fits all. If it's one side, no, there's always three sides to the story. Your side, my side, and what actually happened.
And actually, the way I've sort of told that when I had a bunch of teenagers working for me when I worked at a train station, there's three sides to everything. Your side, the company side, and the way I'm going to tell you to fucking do this job. Yeah,
that also works too.
Oh yeah, I turned into my dad. What an asshole I was. With that.
No, if you were turning to your dad, you'd say it all in German.
You never said shit to me in German. You just said to me that in a German accent. I can't speak German.
Oh. Never mind then.
Oh, there you go. Oh, no, that's not. This show is over. Yeah. My dad doesn't talk like that. But wherever you are, this is going off the rails. Wherever you are, wherever you may be, stay safe, everybody.
Take care.